Hi, meteorologist Tim Kelly. It's what we call a gear tester. Going out tonight, you see if you have the gear to keep warm and dry from head to toe. We have a myriad of advisories. There's no gear test advisory. It's easier to describe where there are no advisories. Most of northern Vermont, most of northern New Hampshire, and parts of western Maine, there are no advisories. Most of the state of Maine is under a winter storm warning now. That means that 6 inches of snow are imminent, and that's in the next about 12 to 18 hours. Over the ocean, there's a storm advisory, a storm warning for winds sustained near 55 miles per hour. And you can barely make it out, but there's a coastal flood advisory for this evening's high tide and the high tide tomorrow morning, which is incidentally at the same time, even though usually it's an hour later, but we turn the clocks back tonight. So that's about 7 p.m. on the high tide tonight and tomorrow morning. And that's for primarily north-facing shores and east-facing shores. Provincetown and Scituate, some of the most vulnerable areas where there may be tide just above maybe a half a foot or a foot above the flood stage. And the waves are 10 to 20 feet tall. And then there's a general wind advisory in effect, southern New Hampshire, southern Vermont. This is right through the entire day tomorrow for winds gusting to 50, 55 miles per hour. And anytime you get a wind gust past 50, 55, that's when damage occurs. And damage causes damage to trees, which causes damage to power lines, which causes the electricity to go out. Now, if you add snow, especially a wet pasting snow, to these advisories, then that adds weight to the trees, and that adds the vulnerability to even further power outages, although most of the leaves are off the trees in central and eastern Maine. It looks like there has been snowing off and on in the Green Mountains today. I think the snow will end in the Green Mountains in the next few hours, leaving 1 to 2 inches above, say 1 or 2,000 feet. There'll be another additional batch of snow. Sunday River, some of the higher elevations already reporting an inch or two, probably 2 or 3 more on top of that. So if you're at elevations above 1,500 or 2,000, you can add an inch or two to these numbers. These are general. It may snow right down to northern Rhode Island. It may snow in Foxborough tomorrow morning at sunrise, but that would end and the Patriots game will be dry. It could even be snowflakes mixed on Cape Cod, but where the ground turns white, general shading here. But it's from about Bangor, Maine, north that it's a serious kind of snow where we're going to have to shovel, we're going to have to plow, and there may be power outages, a very early season snowfall of 6 to 12 inches, and right on the border with New Brunswick, there could even be more than that. All right, so there's the low that just came off South Carolina. That's going to end up being the biggest of these storms. Several low pressure systems going by. We'll try and simplify it by just drawing one. Here is the map tonight. At midnight. It's going to be an area of snow in Maine, rain and snow in southern New Hampshire, central Massachusetts. Some light snow. I don't think it's going to be this far west in perhaps the Berkshires. And then when there is a bit of a gap, the gap not as wide and not as early as I had thought earlier. It now looks like between, say, midnight and 3 a.m., the rain and snow shuts off for a time before this batch of rain and even heavier wind comes in for sunrise tomorrow, as the upper level winds from the northwest and the lower level winds line up from the northwest. That's when you really get the powerful gusts past 50, 60 miles per hour. And then there's the snow in eastern Maine. It looks like western Maine, we may miss the heaviest snow, so that's still kind of a work in progress. And then the cold air comes in. Tomorrow night, there's a hard freeze right to the south coast with temperatures falling into the 20s, and it's still very windy on Monday morning. Here's our 7-day forecast, looking at the sunshine coming back on Monday, and then the warming trend on Tuesday, 55, seasonable. And then above normal temperature for one day, 60 on Wednesday before another front comes in Thursday. And there may be another powerful storm coming in later Thursday into Friday with rain and or mountain snow. That's our forecast.